I'm back. I, of course, am Sarita Yvonne, your licensed therapist and trauma coach. And of course, I'm here with the amazing, fantastical Ursula B with Black girls getting their shift together.
Hey everyone.
Hello, hello.
How's it
I'm
going?
looking forward to this conversation. Where we are going to have some real honest dialogue, some sister girl interaction, where we're going to break down exactly what does it mean when he's just not that into you, if you might be pursuing or chasing and you might not even recognize it, and of course, as always, how does trauma impact or shape a woman's perspective on relationships when it comes to pursuing? Let's
Mm.
get into it. Let's get into it. Where would you like to start?
Well, first, I would like to start to talk about why we're having this conversation. So, just to let everybody know, the reason why Sarita and I are here, we're just giving you a taste of what's going to go on for this event. So, if you do not know, we have an event called Crowned Elevate Your Relationships. It's tomorrow. We are 24 hours, almost, well, we'll say 26 hours away from the event. Anybody in Atlanta, we need to see you there. If you cannot make it, we still got you. You click the link that is in the description box, and in the comment section, you can also watch it streaming live. But you have to click the link to be able to watch it. And there will also be a replay. So I really hope you all can show up. At the least, let's get engaged in the conversation right here and now.
Absolutely. And we thought this would be a great starter conversation because so many women, we do not, and I know I have been there, we do not recognize when a guy is just not into us. We don't see the signs, we ignore the red flags. And so I want to talk about what that looks like. And when we think about pursuing and chasing, our goal here is to really expand your perspective because some of y'all have been doing some chasing and pursuing, and you ain't recognized it as that. You ain't called it that. So let's just jump right in.
Right. And I get it because I never looked at it in times it was. But so now we're talking about pursuing. What to you as the therapist and the relationship trauma coach, the expert, what does it mean to pursue a man?
Well, I think that it's complex, it's nuanced. And so let me give you a couple of definitions because when it comes to pursuit or chasing a man, the flip side of that, this I should say, because it's not just about pursuing, it's
Mhm.
about recognizing if you're in a relationship or a dynamic with someone who's not really into you. And so what happens is if you want the relationship more than they do, or you want to create a relationship where there is none, this is what it looks like. And so pursuing can look like behaviors like, of course, showing interest. And this is like a neutral term where you're taking steps to let him know, or even her, that you're interested in getting to know them better. It can look like taking initiative. So, being proactive, being confident, being willing to make the first move. Many people have their perspectives about what this is and what it means. But I think we also have to recognize that sometimes as women, we can attempt to woo a romantic partner, to charm them,
Mhm.
to want to attract their attention. And that can absolutely lead to chasing or pursuing someone who's not interested in you.
So that's very and it is very surface and topical. I do feel that, which is good because we are having Crown where we can actually pop the hood and see what's really under that hood of what is really going on or the motivation for it. But do you think it's desperate to pursue a man or relationships?
I think this is a conversation that we should have and we can have as women, whether you're in a relationship, you want to be in a relationship, because we can get caught up in this competitive edge that there are some people in different corners of the internet saying that that's what women need to do, that we need to vie for a man's attention, we need to work for it, we need to compete for it. And this absolutely can lead to being in a relationship with someone who, or attempting or believing that you're in a relationship, because we do that too, with someone who doesn't want to be in a relationship with you, or they see that you're interested and they want to use and abuse that. So let me make sure, because so many thoughts have gone through my head as we're talking about pursuing and wooing. You asked, was that desperate? And
Yeah.
I think that let's be honest for just a moment about desperation,
Uh-oh.
because we have one side where women are told that a man should pursue us, that a man should show his interest, that we should not be the ones who are trying to court a man. We definitely shouldn't be the ones who propose to a man. And so I think we need to have this conversation, because a lot of us, especially as trauma survivors, we look at those overt gestures
Yeah.
of a woman trying to get a man as desperation. We are quick to label that, oh, she's desperate, oh, she's a pick me. But the truth is, some of us are feminine in the streets and pick me's in the sheets. Some of us are
Why you
very much.
blow everybody's head off with that one?
This is real, because some
Damn.
of us don't recognize how we are desperate for attention. We
Right.
are desperate and craving connection, how we will accept the bare minimum, how we feel like we have to work for love. We'll say that, yeah, I'm independent, I would never do that. But meanwhile, you are constantly working, proving, sacrificing. Let's talk about it. Is that pursuing? Is that desperation? I don't doubt it. But
I
I
like
think that, well, let me just
go
say this
ahead.
one last part.
Uh-huh.
I think that many of us who are caretaking and giving and sacrificing, we don't even recognize how that behavior, along with people pleasing, can very much be a thirst trap. You go.
Oh my God. I love what you said about the sacrificing part, because when you did mention about the people pleasing, it can't come up. Well, that's just how I am. That's just how I saw my mom act with my dad or my grandmother, aunties, and think that that's just what we do as women. But mm,
I,
the
I think
sacrificing.
that I think that when it comes to relationships, and this is why we are having Crown, so get your tickets. I think when it comes to relationships, so many of us, we didn't grow up seeing healthy relationships. Many of us didn't have healthy relationships with our parents. And so we often don't recognize what is healthy. We don't recognize our unhealthy patterns. We don't recognize the things, unless we do the work, the things that we believe about love. And let's be real, a lot of us have perceptions about love that have nothing to do with love,
Right.
perceptions that are rooted in pain. And if that is the case, then you will be unconsciously, unintentionally chasing and pursuing relationships with people who are not into you.
Right. Yeah, because that normalized dysfunction is quote unquote normal for us. So I can see where it would feel normal, but it's very unhealthy.
Well, normal is familiar. Familiar doesn't equal healthy when it comes to human beings and human development. And let me just say this one last thing about desperation, because the judgment that we can sometimes put on women or people in general who are clear about what they think they want and who they want to be with, and then they're not worried about what other people think, and they out here, whether it's proposing or doing all of that. I may not necessarily agree with it, but I think that we have to be willing to look at all of the ways that we do seek constant validation. And we will do that, especially as trauma survivors, from people who will refuse to give it to you. So
Right.
you will walk over people who are, who who love and who see you or who respect you and validate you, and be unconsciously sometimes, and sometimes you know what you're doing, that you're looking for validation, you're looking for some connection, you're looking to win someone over, you're hoping they will change. Is that a form of desperation? Come on, y'all, let's talk about it. Put it in the chat.
So, okay. So when you're talking about all this pursuing, do you think that a woman can recognize that?
Well, can they?
I mean, because
I
yeah,
I think that oftentimes, and as someone who definitely has been low key desperate for a relationship because of my own trauma and my own fear and my own inability to be alone. Mhm. You, if we have this unaddressed fear, if we have these trauma responses, if we have these issues that we've never dealt with, or we use relationships in order to avoid our own pain or our own dysfunction, it can create a desperation to escape and to seek to uh, find relief in another person,
mm,
usually another dysfunctional, toxic person that's not into you.
right.
Yeah. If you're
So
not into yourself, how's somebody else gonna be into you?
right. So anybody listening, I want you to put in the chat if you can share a story of desperation or if you grew up seeing it. I know I did, or even your friends, or if you dare, so yourself.
Well, that's can you put in some examples of what you think is desperation or what you have seen in terms of labeling a woman as looking, I won't say being desperate, but looking as if she's desperate for a man's attention?
Right. Or pick me.
Yes, but here's the deal too. I think that when we are in our sister girl circle and we're talking and we are telling the truth, like in a moment of authenticity, when you think about how Black women have been conditioned and how what we've been taught in terms of that love is how much you can endure in relationships,
Right.
hmm, does that not teach women that they should be desperate for a man's attention, validation, energy, attention? Does it
Wait,
not?
go back a little bit. Say that first part. Does it not seem like, go ahead.
If you are, if so many of us, because of what we saw and what we experienced in terms of women being dealing with abuse or neglect or invalidation, struggle love, and having to endure, because a lot of us were taught that love is how much you can endure
Yes.
as a woman. So if love is about what you can endure, love is pain, does that not create some sense of desperation in a
Mhm.
woman to need or pursue or to have to be in or to sacrifice everything for the attention, for the affection, for the physical, to be in physical proximity to a man? Does that not create desperation?
It absolutely does. It does. But I feel that sometimes because I've done this before, and chat, you let me know if you've done it as well, that we use those red flags just to ignore it. So Facebook user, which part can you identify with this particular point? Which part? If you don't mind putting it in the chat. But yeah, we use the red flags that we can ignore all those actions that we take. Some of the more subtle ones, I mean, what would you consider some examples of what it looks like? I mean, I can give some too.
And examples of what?
Of a woman pursuing, how does it look?
Okay, yeah, share some examples if you have them.
So from so what I'm thinking of is the more obvious, like you said, showing the interest. He's not reciprocating it whatsoever. That's one obvious. But I believe staying with that person when they are breaching the contract of the relationship, if that makes sense. So, for example, say if he's cheating, a perpetual cheater, chronic, and we still take them back. I don't think your partner is into you, they're still doing that. But me pursuing that person, I still want the relationship. I'm still pursuing the relationship. I think that's very obvious.
Well, you know what? I think that, we all, most of us, and I know I do, like to quote Maya Angelou, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time.
Right.
But if we got, some trauma wounds, if we got some baggages, if we got a bunch of shit that we have never addressed, we forget about that. You know what I'm saying? Because,
We do.
because some of us are willing to tolerate the pain of another person's betrayal before we are willing to address our own pain. And see,
Mm,
here's the deal. I think I'm going to tell you from my professional opinion and from my personal perspective that I think that the desperation and the attraction to people who are not into you, people who are invalidating, people who don't care about your needs, or they can't meet your needs, or they won't meet your needs, that is trauma. That is it. Because if you think about a person who is healthy and who's whole and they know who they are and they are connected to themselves, why? Why does it make logical sense that you would want to be with someone who lies, who cheats, who's disrespectful, who's invalidating, who is critical? I mean, logically, it makes no sense. But as a person who has been attracted to to people
yeah.
like that, I can tell you that is why trauma is so insidious. That is why trauma must be addressed, and that is why when you think about how human beings operate and how relationships operate. When you don't get what you need, it creates desperation. And if you're not willing to look at the source of the desperation, you're just going to keep trying to go after what you think it
Yeah.
is that you need. But what you think you need is based on the desperation. It's a cycle, it's a vicious loop that you can't get out by trying to change. You can't get out of the loop by trying to change the other person or win them over. It's never going to work. They're
It
never going to change for you. They can only change for themselves.
Right. So can you give some examples of when a person is in a relationship and they're not being validated by their partner?
So let me say this because most of us, I'll probably say all of us, but I'll use most, are trauma survivors. So let's talk about what that looks like when we are in low key pursuit. Okay, I'm gonna say low key because we don't recognize
We
how we
don't.
might be doing a little bit of chasing in these relationships. So let's talk about a heightened need for reassurance. So we might constantly seek validation and reassurance or confirmation. You might become easily afraid of anything that looks like it might threaten the relationships. You want to know their intentions.
Mm,
So this is all based on something that we're going to talk about during Crown, and this is your attachment. And so if
mm,
something is, if you got stuff within you that you haven't addressed and you fear losing the other person, honey, you can't really focus. You can't really be in the relationship because you're so afraid of losing the relationship. You see how that can create this desperate need to try to keep an attachment? But the
yeah.
thing is, it could be real that the attachment is threatened. It could also not be real because you don't even really have a relationship. It's just make believe.
Mhm.
And you could also just be afraid. And so there's what's called testing boundaries. So if you're just trying to test his commitment or his loyalty or or trying to gauge if they'll go or if they stay, then that ain't about them. That's about you. And that is a low key desperate tactic because
Right.
you can simply have an honest conversation and a vulnerable conversation about what you want, what you fear, and what you need. But testing is a low key way of trying to get at it without really having to put yourself or your feelings on the line. You feel me?
Mm.
So let me talk about two more. One
Okay.
is over apologizing, frequently apologizing, even for minor issues. If you fear that it might lead to abandonment or you don't want to upset them.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
And also seeking to control them or to control aspects of the relationship. This is really about creating a sense of safety and predictability. If we're trying to manufacture safety and predictability, that's because it ain't there.
Now, you know, you're going to hurt everybody with that last thing. But the truth hurts sometimes, but it's keeping it real. But you know, when you keep saying it is low key, but sometimes I think it can be high key, because if we're in these toxic relationships, or we are in a toxic relationship and our partner is doing everything you just said, we pursue them by continue to take them back or stay in a relationship. But what are your thoughts if we have a friend that will do that, one of our own girlfriends? We'd cut them off in a minute. So we can't see the difference.
Well, you know what? Well, can we see the difference? I don't know,
But
because
really?
we have different expectations, different boundaries, different needs for different relationships.
Mhm.
And a lot of times I think our trauma shows up in our romantic relationships. And so that whether it's neediness or clinginess or seeking external validation, a lot of that occurs in the romantic relationships. And even fear, if someone has fear of rejection or fear of abandonment, that's going to show up more in the intimate relationship than it may.
Mm. That makes sense. And see, this is why I strongly encourage you all to come to Crown in person or in the stream, which will be a live stream with the replay, because Sarita will come with the science behind it. So everything that she's talking about, there is
You
something.
better know it.
Yeah, there are labels to it. So I'm familiar with some, but I want you all to become familiar as well, because some things that we know it doesn't feel right. We can feel it. But when you can actually put a name to it, it will make so much sense. I mean, what you do with it is what you do with it, but at least you are aware of it. So once you hear it, understand it, because she's going to break it down. The toothpaste is out of the tube. You can't put it back in. So, but we want you to get
Thank
that.
you.
We want you to see that. So I
Thank
just
you for
strongly
that.
encourage everyone. Yeah. Well, you
And
said it before. Like, if you can name it, you can tame it.
that's exactly it.
Yeah.
That and that is why, our self-education and self-knowledge is vital. It's important. It's imperative on
Mm,
this journey, because a lot of things that you will secretly or silently struggle with, there is a reason. There is a name. You are not alone. You are not special in the universe in terms of like this thing is only happening to you. No, a lot of the stuff that we are talking about as it relates to relationships and struggle love and being attracted to people who aren't really really into you, these are all aspects of trauma. And so
mhm,
I see the comment here. Someone says a lot of times people ignore the signs because trauma teaches you that you are flawed and nobody will ever love you. So then
mm.
we hold on to the bad because to reveal that it's not working will reveal everyone was right and you are unlovable and a failure.
Wow.
That whole thinking, that is an aspect of trauma. That is a trauma response. And the thing is, I would say it a little bit differently, that when you experience trauma, particularly at a young age, if you experience childhood trauma, you don't have the ability to process it. You don't have the ability to understand. You can't really have experience logic and reason or practice logic and reason, because that area of your brain is not even fully developed. And
Mm,
not to mention that the defense mechanisms in order to keep you bonded to people who are meant to keep you alive, you
mm,
will sacrifice yourself and your truth and your feelings. And so the way that a child perceives things that happen to them is, it must be me. I must be flawed. I've done something wrong. And so that becomes our default way of thinking and processing in relationships. And so that's why trauma can distort your perspective of yourself and love. And that's why you become desperate in relationships and chasing relationships. You see how's all connected? And so this is why we have to be willing to get to the root and understand and recognize if we have beliefs like I'm unlovable.
Right. Oh boy. It just reminds me while you're speaking of, I don't remember the cartoon, but it was a mind bender. So when the man, this cartoon character, he wanted to create this fantasy and he would literally distort what it was, the reality to what he wanted it to be. I've done it. If anybody in the chat, if you've been a mind bender as well, put mind bender in the chat. Put it in for me as well. But I mean, because
Will you?
uh-huh.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I just don't want anyone to think that like their own situation is just unique. Like we've all done it. But that's the part about the healing, that we can heal together as well. So that we can stop, see some of these cycles, because I'm sure, let me know in the chat if this sounds familiar. You've done with one relationship, so you just jump right into another thinking it's gonna make it better. So then we're still pursuing, it's just changed. The physical man or person partner has changed, but it's still the same
The
cycle going
pattern
on.
is the same.
Yes. So
The
that's
pattern.
saying break up with the pattern, not the person, but get closer to yourself.
Absolutely. And you were talking about the mind bender and bending reality. So let me just give you a little taste, a little understanding of how we do that.
Ooh, yes.
So when we are uh, creating a relationship where there really is none, when we are wanting a relationship, or if we desire a relationship with someone, we can create a fantasy bond. And so this fantasy bond really is a mind bender. It's an illusion. It's the illusion of connection. So you might feel that, you have something special. You might feel like there's a genuine bond. You might feel like, oh, this is my person and I really want them. No, it is not. You're telling yourself a lie. And I can tell you from someone, I have lied to myself quite a bit. And
You
that's
too?
I'm telling you, put lie in the chat. If you have lied and then you woke up to the truth and then you realize you lied, and then you got to work on the self-forgiveness, because that is a defense mechanism. And I'm here to tell you that when we create these fantasy bonds, that too is a defense mechanism. We do it in order to create the illusion of a relationship, but we're really doing it, if we're going to tell the truth, we're doing it to avoid an actual real relationship. We create these bonds because we're avoiding the vulnerability that is really required, taking the mask off, telling the truth, expressing yourself. We are putting a person on a pedestal, seeing them with qualities that they don't even have. We're giving them the potential. We're giving it to them, and then we proceed to treat them as if it's real, as if they really got it. And
Right.
so we can project onto them our desires.
So I learned on this podcast, and it makes sense. And the therapist, well, you can judge it up being the professional, but in my layman's ears, I heard that when it goes back to the childhood trauma, like you've always mentioned, and how when we're children and we're having these traumatic incidents, saying if it comes from a parent or a primary caretaker, that say out of 100%, just 70%, they're just being toxic. But that 30%, when they're acting nice and loving and quote unquote nurturing, that we hold on to that 30% to create these fantasy bonds with our parents. But then I see how it can spill over in adulthood. Everything you just said on how we create these fantasy bonds and lie to ourselves and turn that 30% that our partner is giving us, and it's really 70% toxic and traumatic.
That's absolutely correct. This is why it's a defense
Yeah.
mechanism. And so, listen,
That's what triggered it in my head.
if we're not prepared to deal with life, if we're not prepared mentally or emotionally to deal with the relationship trauma that we've encountered, if we can't deal with the truth about who a person really is, we have built-in ways of distorting reality and distorting our perception of other people in order to stay in a space that is comfortably uncomfortable. And
Mm.
so we can we can do things like mistake intensity for intimacy. And so we can
Ooh.
this roller coaster, this up and down, this, 30%, and then the other 70 is, me crying, begging, asking, fixing, pleading.
Watching
That
the
creates
house.
that creates intensity that for some of us we don't even recognize that is stress that we have come to believe is love. And so, as we are avoiding the truth about what the situation or what the circumstance or what the struggle of really is, we're crafting a narrative. And that's another way that we create fantasy bonds. So, we can create a story or a narrative around the relationship that emphasizes its uniqueness, its destiny, the intensity, the soulmate, or the soul ties. And we can breathe life into that story in order to give ourselves the illusion of a connection or intimacy or a real relationship.
Okay. What are your thoughts? Because as you're speaking, I'm thinking of this. When we get that butterfly feeling,
Mm,
I read that that's really your body, like your nervous system, like warning you, like, or I don't say warning, just giving you a sign, especially if it's a toxic partner, that is almost like it's not love and butterflies. It's really your system, like, hey, danger.
mhm.
Is that what are your thoughts on that from your professional aspect perspective?
Well, first, let me remind you all of the divine, creative, powerful child of God that you are. You are so powerful
Yeah.
that everything has all the meaning that you give it. So let me give you an example and then I'm going to go back to what you just asked me, but I want to make this point very clear. So, butterflies in the stomach, right? I could be on a roller coaster. I'm going to have the same response, right? Whether I love roller coasters and I'm so excited, I want to throw my hands up and I want to go with it, or I am terrified. This equals death. You know you will have a certain feeling, but your interpretation of the feeling based on your beliefs is going to determine how you respond. And so when it comes to relationships and when it comes to attraction, see, if I didn't experience some trauma, if my mama was crazy as hell and my daddy was absent, um that that butterflies in the feeling that butterfly feeling that I might get with someone, oh, that's familiarity. That's like, oh my God, yes, I get to re traumatize myself with him. He's familiar. He has all of the signs of a bullshitter that will absolutely be guaranteed to hurt me. But maybe if I just do it right this time, if I get it right, if I love hard enough, then I can change the outcome. That's what's happening. Now, if you have grew up in a healthy home and you have secure bonds and you know yourself, then you can trust that. You know what I'm saying? Because
Right.
that's familiar. So if healthy is familiar for you, then you get the butterflies. Yeah. Then yeah, guess what? We get to have healthy bonds and we get to have open communication and we're going to have conflicts, but guess what? We can work through them and we can resolve those conflicts with mutual respect. That's
Mm.
my perspective.
And another way to recognize if we are pursuing someone, everything you just said, I hear whenever you're talking, I hear the person changing themselves to make their partner love them more. So that's another sign right there. If you are not coming vulnerable, like you just mentioned earlier, that's another way right there.
You know the name for that? A person who is a chameleon and morphs themselves in relationships? It's codependency. That's what codependents do. And by the way, heads up, superwomen do that too. Oh yes, superwomen. You throw on your cape, you're changing. Isn't that what it means? If I got to transform from human to superhero, I'm changing. Yes, you are.
You really can you click on and show everyone that last statement by Superfood Parents? That's piggybacking exactly what you said. We ramp up that 30% to be 100 of what they want and need. Now the imagined person is the fairy godmother out of the godfather, just untouchable to flaws.
And they can only be untouchable to flaws if we're not willing to acknowledge the flaws, or if we fear looking at the flaws or calling out the flaws, that doing so will threaten the relationship,
So
because you don't have a relationship in the first place. That's why you're afraid to address the flaws. But go ahead.
yeah, because we do know that it's not for us. So we say flaws, but what are some examples of when well, excuse me, let me back up. How do we know if that partner is not into us? Well, like, what are their actions or their quote unquote, I don't want to say flaws, but what are their actions that they show that we choose to ignore? Because really, it's not about the partner, it's how we navigate.
Well, we know damn well. We know. You know. We all know. And when you told yourself you didn't know, you was lying. Because you did know. Because when you got sick and tired, you like, he never even respected me. He don't even know my birthday. He don't even know my last name. But let me, that's the sister girl. That's the reader response. Now let me give you the therapist response, because you know. And the reason why I'm going to tell you that you know, because I want you to own your power. Because that's how we break these cycles. This is how we stop the BS. This is how we stop low key and high key pursuing people who don't see you. They don't even see you for who you are. First one is the lack of reciprocity, honey. If you always giving, if you always doing, if you initiating contact, if you're the ones making plans, if you're the one expressing feelings, baby, they ain't in it. They present, but they like a dead body. Ain't nothing in there. It's empty. If they have dismissive behavior. So if they canceling plans, if they are avoiding commitment talks, and you know one of their favorites is, let's just see where it goes.
Girl.
Let's just see where it goes. But I do want you to cook and clean and give me some, though. But I do want to hit raw, though.
Come to family holidays, holiday events.
So
we're not together.
Someone. You said you're not together?
Yeah, we're not together, but we're going to sleep together tonight. We're going to take trips. But let's not put labels on things, because, let's take it slow.
And that can be dismissive behavior, because, and here's the thing, what you have to believe what people say. And that's what I think. And when we're talking about chasing and girl, he ain't that into you, he's saying, if we don't want to put a label on it, that means I'm not that into you. That's what it means. It means I'm going to sit here and take from you whatever I can get. But I want you to understand, don't expect nothing back from me. And most of us ain't even getting taken on trips, if we gonna be honest. You like taking trips, hopefully you get a trip, but a lot of times it ain't happening, okay? You get a trip to the bedroom, that's your trip. So if you always make yourself available, if you adjusting your schedule, if you compromising, if you contorting yourself, if you always got to be the one to do all the give, you see how there's a theme of sacrifice here. But let me continue. that creates an imbalance. So that means that they are not showing up. There's no recognition of your feelings and needs, because it should be balanced. That's what the healthy relationship is. If you are rationalizing their behavior, so if you're making
Ooh,
excuses for
that's
their lack of interest, if you see they showing you they interested, they showing you the truth, but you are creating a whole goddamn Disney fairy tale about their lack of interest. Like you coming up with stuff. You're going into the DSM, okay, to try to figure out what diagnosis you could put on point, then you can save him and be the hero of the day, hoping that he will save you. Now I wasn't going to talk about that part until later, but y'all got me going, okay?
go for it.
You want to try to fix so that hopefully he can turn around and become this great ambitious man. Yes, I'm telling my story too. This is my testimony. This great person who, after you done help them and fix them, and you know what I'm saying, did the Build-A-Boo project, that finally he will become your Prince Charming. He ain't, he can't, he not. But ignoring your intuition. So
Ooh,
your gut feelings, like I said, you know what you know, because you are powerful. You make shit happen every single day. You want me to believe that you didn't know this whole Dusty was a Dusty? Please, you knew, because he
you
ain't
know
even
what?
that
I'm
smart.
done. I'm
He's
gone.
not smart.
You
He
said
probably ain't even get his GED. He's not, he ain't it. So I know you had to be involved in some capacity, because I know you make it happen. You do too much. He ain't that good with the lion, because even if you can't catch him in the lie, you be like, something's off, because that's how powerful you are. Am I wrong? Please, ladies, tell me I'm wrong if I'm wrong.
wait.
Am I wrong? No, because I bet you most of these ones who don't really like you and who ain't into you, who done played you in some way, tell me 9 times out of 10 you were smarter than them. Come on now. Come on. That's why they was leaning on you. That's why they like, can you do my resume? Come on.
You know what? I'm done. Goodbye. I'm done. Stop it.
I'm saying your intuition, that right there, that's your ride or die. She stay loyal to you. But if if you got some trauma like I had, and you wanted fake love more than you wanted your own soul, then you would be like, girl, be quiet. Intuition, not now. Not now. He's selling a lot to make me feel love for the next 15 minutes. Just give me these 15 minutes.
And you know, the biggest lie we can tell ourselves, because I know we've all have said this. We know everything that whole itemized list you just delivered, but we stay because we don't want the next person to have him, because we still have this distorted view that they're going to get this prince. But we lie to ourselves.
Girl, I used to jam to Beyonce's song, Ring the Alarm. I'd be damned if I see another chick on your arm. Meanwhile, he was driving your car, okay? Meanwhile, he's gonna be on the bus when you break up with him. But let's just say, like, does this not happen? So I'm like, this is the thing. And I'm gonna be serious. I know I got some jokes today. I don't even know where they came from because I didn't plan them. But you know, sometimes spirit works in mysterious ways. But here's the deal. We will accept minimal effort, and we can talk about it. Let's talk about it, okay?
Yeah.
That we will be grateful, or we will accept the minimum effort or attention because we fear that expecting more will push him away. Let's talk about it. We have fear that if we expect more, he like, listen, I gave you the maximum amount of withdrawals that you can get. Okay, you about to overdraft. And I don't know what to tell you, because there are going to be some fees. Okay, and I'm not going to have nothing on them fees because I ain't got nothing for you. And so you just accept whatever you can get. But that is a trauma bond. That is trauma that has us, there will be people out here on the internet talking about women are dumb, women are gullible, women got low self-esteem. But the reality is that is trauma. And that is because if we receive the bare minimum from parents who were also traumatized, who
Right.
didn't really have enough love or attention to give, then that is what we have learned about relationships. And that's why the greatest gift we can give ourselves is to honor our relationship with ourselves. Because if we don't, we will have people who will abuse that. We will
Yeah.
be out here chasing people out of a desperation to be connected to another individual, but we don't know how to be connected to another individual.
Mm-hmm.
And I see the comment, I'm a widow struggling with getting back out there. Oh, my love, I'm so sorry for your loss. And I thank you for your vulnerability and your honesty here. And she says, I don't know how to date. And yes, minimal effort. And the reality is that I understand why you don't know how to date, but a lot of us don't know how to date. Who taught us how to date? Who? Who taught us how to, go out
How
there
to
and what
date
to look for?
healthy dating. Because we know how to date. We've seen it, but we've seen a relationship
No, we seen kicking it. We seen struggle love.
struggle
We
up.
seen hookups. We seen 15-year relationships of about 1 year of happiness, and then the rest was like, trauma, drama, 2 sad babies.
Girl.
Girl. So we done saying some things. And so the truth is that you're learning as a widow. I think we're all learning. We're all learning about relationships, and I do encourage you to get back out there and have your standards and your boundaries. And yes, don't get with no old ass man who's looking to rest in nest, who's looking for a nurse. Do the health checks, baby, because you done put in your time. You was
Come
married
on.
for 4 years. You are not going to be a nursing home wife. And so you got to have your standards, your expectations, and your boundaries, because they be out here looking for somebody to take them out of the nursing home, and they will not be going into your home. Okay, let's be very clear. You are not the help. None of us are. We have officially retired. Ain't no more cakes out here. Okay,
Oh
you go.
my God. If this sounds just all of this conversation, this sounds intriguing to you, I want you all, everyone listening, type the word crowned in the chat. So let's read some of these comments. Someone said it was scrolled up that she made herself available, but he ended up leaving. Did you see
I
that?
I do. I do. And can you say a little bit more? I think that was about, because she said she was a widow. And so I think that's what she meant. But you're welcome to clarify so we can support you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Shayna. Thank you, Lisa. And y'all tell me, was I going too hard? Was anything I said wrong? Because I am open to critique, okay? I'm open to discussion. I sure am. We breaking these cycles, and I mean it.
Oh
And in
my
order to do that, we got to tell the truth. Because if you want me to tell you the real before we get off of here, is that if you are chasing love, if you are chasing a man, if you are chasing a relationship, I'm sorry, my love, you have made a mistake. Because the one that you are really looking for is you.
Mm. Yeah, but when we learn to ignore ourselves, that we won't find ourselves.
Well, that is the whole point. If you have learned to ignore yourself, then your whole purpose in this life is to reconnect with you. What else
Exactly.
is there? Yes, you can get some trinkets, you know what I'm saying? Some clothes, and you can get you definitely need a roof over your head, because it gets cold outside. Okay? But the truth is we need ourselves, because if you respect, or it's important for you to have a relationship with God, what you gonna take your mask to God? You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? Like, you gonna show up in that relationship with your fear, or are you going to use your relationship with God to enhance your relationship with the divine in you? And you can't do that if you living on a steady diet of lies in
You just
delusion.
can't. You can't. And fantasy.
Girl, it's just a fantasy. Every one of my late relationships was, I seen your face before, and the man before you, and the man before that, and the man before that, and they was the same.
You are
Dusty,
crazy.
emotionally unavailable, deep dark voids with nothing to offer. Sometimes an occasional good stroke, but a lot of times nothing to offer. Okay. So they say choose
Woo!
better. Listen, if they say Black women need to choose better, then we need to choose ourselves.
I love that. Yes. I love
So if
that.
you choose better, love better, give better to you, and then everyone else that you're in a relationship will benefit from the love and attention and validation that you give yourself. But see,
Mm.
these dusty incel struggle bandits, I heard that term on the internet. I'm not saying I use it, but I'm saying that if they happen to be out here, they are looking to exploit any vulnerability that you have that you don't even know that you have. That's what they're looking for.
Oh, you're killing me today.
In the chat.
What'd you say?
You see the last comment? She said, "Yes, I want that occasional stroke." 3 years.
I know that's right.
Girl, listen, I'm not mad, but I'm saying you just got to listen. I understand, but you got to stay in recovery. You can't be relapsing. You got to stay in recovery until they're properly vetted, because it can come with drama and disease, and we don't want that. Okay, especially the real good ones. So you got to make sure that you vet, that you take care of yourself emotionally, that you take care of your needs, so that you can meet someone who's worthwhile of being able to meet your needs as you meet theirs. It's real out here, girl. The struggle is real, but we got to stay true to ourselves.
It is. Facebook user said, yes, I just realized how vulnerable I was making myself. Child.
Girl, yes. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I think back to what I was saying about trusting your intuition, is the
Mhm.
more that you trust your intuition. And I don't mean, because for on this healing journey, it's a healing journey. And so sometimes we will have a sense or a feeling that can actually be a residue of our trauma. So our discernment
Mm.
begins with being able to discern ourselves, because sometimes fear can show up, and that fear can be that fear can be very strong, but it can also be simply a mask. So sometimes the fear is accurate in terms of stay away from this person.
Okay.
But also we have to recognize that if we are trauma survivors, the fear could be, oh, this person is healthy. And
That goes
so,
back to the mind bending, correct? Or no?
well, what I mean is, let me explain that the fear for a trauma survivor of being in a relationship with someone who's healthy, the fear could be the fear of vulnerability, of
Oh,
showing them who you really are, of feeling like you're not good enough, of feeling insecure, of having anxiety because it's new. Human beings, and this is why we have to humanize this journey, because human beings experience anxiety when they have new experiences. And
mm,
so going from dusty trauma bond narcissist to healthy, it's going to feel different. It's going to feel new. They're going to want to know how you feel. They're going to want you to talk about your feelings. And if you're not aware, if you're not able to discern your own feelings, you can unintentionally sabotage healthy relationships. Are you with me?
oh,
Because
wow.
the fear can deceive you. Y'all be so, we be talking about the devil is a lie. Well, baby, and she living here until you get her out, until you can do an exorcism. And the exorcism is the truth. because that fear, because you're trying to protect yourself, but you're unconsciously protecting yourself from something that is healthy because it's new.
No,
It's making sense.
that makes a lot of sense. It just seems like there's a lot of shape shifting and bending and wire, face distortion, everything, but nobody's coming vulnerable on both ends. But that's why the healing is so important. So important. Oh, I love that last comment. Fear of
And this,
loneliness or loving again.
and I think well, once we're done with this live stream, it will be available on our page and on YouTube, so you can absolutely watch it again. Fear of loneliness. Let's talk about this before we wrap up because we need to. Okay, and y'all can see I'm on one. Okay, and I didn't even think I was on one before we started, but I am. Okay, and I love you. And so get your tickets to Crown because I'm gonna be on one then too, live and in person. But here's the deal. Loneliness. Oh my
Mm,
God. We avoid this shit like it's a disease that it will choke the life out of us. So many of us struggle with loneliness that sometimes we can't even put a word on it. We can't put a finger on it because it's been with us for so long. And you know
mhm.
how I know that you know exactly what I'm talking about because you don't get to be a superwoman because you received a lot of support. Hello, somebody.
Oh my
You
God.
get to save people and sacrifice because no one sacrificed for you. It's lonely as hell being a superwoman.
It
You
is.
had to figure out things on your own. You didn't have anyone to, take care of your feelings and your needs. You had to do it all. That's how we become superwoman, or as some of the Dusties, I mean, I didn't mean to say Dusties, I mean these other podcasters out here will say that you're masculine. And really, I say that we are superwoman because you were forced to be, because you were made to be one. But it's lonely out here. You know what I'm saying? When you are at the top, in terms of at the top of everybody depending on you, everybody needing on you, you needing you having to be strong all the time. You only learn how to be strong all the time because no one was strong for you. And that shit is
Right.
lonely as hell. And so we got to be honest about the ways that we feel lonely and that we never got supported or we need support, because that's how we heal and that's how we have healthy relationships. Because so many of us are running from our loneliness. We trying to outwork this loneliness. We trying to out educate this loneliness. We are doing everything. Hey, you trying to get stroke in order to avoid this loneliness. And we just end up betraying ourselves because in order to avoid the loneliness, what do you have to do? You have to try to escape the feeling and try to fill it with something else.
Yep.
It,
Fill
it,
it with
it
something
will never
else
work.
to
It
agree.
will never work.
And another added layer, especially with us who are every year we get older, because we don't want to grow old alone. So I've heard, you stick with the devil, like why start over? That keeps us also in a toxic loop of these dysfunctional relationships. And again, it's not about the toxic partner, it's about the actions that we do. It's us. That's what I'm
Well,
talking about. But I mean,
you,
I'm sure you've heard that.
what's really toxic is thinking that you got to stay with a devil.
So you've heard that term before, right? Stick or stay
I've
with
heard,
the devil.
I've heard it, and I'm saying
Yep.
because that is a belief that is based in trauma. That is the whole essence of what trauma is, to stay in what is toxic because it's familiar. That is trauma.
Hmm.
And I will tell you that that whole idea is about sacrifice. And see, here the
Yeah.
thing is, if y'all want to tell the truth, is that what you end up sacrificing is your own soul. Because in order to stay with the devil, you can't be divine. and be with the damn devil. Those two things don't go together. So
It
you end up
can.
sacrificing your values, your purpose, your connection to your truth. You end up sacrificing your voice because the devil like to talk a whole lot and don't want you to talk and want to control every damn thing and tell you who to be and tell you how to act. What is that really living? You know what I'm saying? If you got to stay with the devil because you just the devil you know is better than the one you don't. You know what I say? Peace. Peace is better.
Yeah.
And the devil you know and the devil that you don't. Because guess what? If you are a grown, able-bodied woman, you can choose to make a move, to leave, to go, to stay, to do what you want to do. You have agency. And you, hey, to the left. You always got that option.
It's like
I
a
think a
slow
toxic
drip
devil
death.
made up that belief so that they can continue to siphon the energy, the
Yeah.
resources, the cleaning and the cooking, you know what I'm saying? And the physical intimacy with someone, from someone who believes that they can't really live their life without them because they've been told that in order to be valuable, you have to have the attention of a man.
Ooh. It's like a slow drip death.
Girl, and you can't be in a situation like that and not have health issues because your body has so much wisdom. Your body will literally break down.
Yeah.
You can't survive. You can't because you were never meant to. You were never meant to live a life filled with trauma or a relationship filled with trauma.
Exactly.
If you don't break down mentally, you will break down physically until you choose your liberation.
That's it. That is it. Can you post that last comment? Please clip and post as a truth moment that segment you said about us seeing folks kick it. Oh, okay. Seeing 15-year relationships with 1 year of happiness, side kids, etc. I had to rewind and listen. Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely will. Because, you know, this is what we have been sold as relationships.
Exactly. So there's this viral clip. I can't think of the podcast. You know, I love podcasts. And they had audience participation. And one of the ladies had asked, let me know if you heard it. She said, what is it about our partner who just everything that last clip you just posted, you know, the cheating, the unhappiness, pretty much the struggle, love, and then they want to act right, quote unquote, right when they're tired and or older. And then the host flipped it around and asked her, well, why do you feel like you needed to stay and went through that whole itemized list? And you can see the look on her face. I mean, I had it on my face too, like, damn, that's so true. And it's all about going from within. Because we don't have to put up with any of this struggle, love, but we do wear it as a badge of honor because it was normalized. It was very normalized.
Well, I think a lot of us wear it as a well, I would say it differently. I think we do, or sometimes we can wear it as a badge of honor, but I think
Uh-huh.
that um, it's because we were sold and told that this is what makes a good woman. So,
Mm.
I mean, the whole idea of ride or die. And so this is when you think about the relationship ideals and the ideas that we've inherited, we have the opportunity to dismantle the beliefs within ourselves that do not serve us, that do not give us the um, that don't really create healthy relationships. And so we have to be able to look at these things that we if either seen or experienced and be able to make a conscious choice. Because if we're just in relationships based on our past experiences, we're not really experiencing relationships. We're not using relationships correctly. We are not activating the purpose of relationships. We just getting booed up to pass the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We just getting booed up in order to have the same level of stress and nervous system activation that we've been used to for all our lives. We just getting booed up because we have known is being on roller coasters. And so, well, I can't just be on a roller coaster and go through all these feelings and have this intensity and be up and be down. And I don't know, I can't do that by myself. So let me get a partner in crime in order to form these trauma bonds so I can feel like I'm normal.
Damn, not the trauma bonds. She said boot up. She's laughing at your boot up.
Girl, listen, they got all kind of names for these fantasy bonds, trauma bonds, air relationships.
What do you say?
That's air relationships. It's another term that a psychologist created for these fake ass make believe fairy tale, Sesame Street, sometimes horror movie relationships that we are in that have no intimacy, no vulnerability, no communication, no mutual respect. You know what I'm saying? The ones who be talking about, you ain't submissive and feminine enough. I mean, not the psychologists, just the people on the
right.
Internet, you know.
I never heard of that. I'm going to look that up. Ear relationship. That's okay.
Of course.
Interesting.
Stick with me. You'll always learn something new. Get your tickets to Crown, baby.
Well, this has been very good. I mean, it's been enlightening.
But of course.
Yeah, superfoods. I never heard of that either. Ear relationships too. She's like, man. So see, this is just a little bit. So how we're getting these nuggets right now. Can you imagine what it's going to be like during the live stream and or in person? Because again, if you can name it, you can tame it. Certain situations, life experiences will start to make sense. Again, do what you want with it, but you will know. You will know, but you will get it at Crown. So once again, put your crowns. If anything resonated with you today, drop the word Crown in the chat.
And so I want to thank all of you for being here live, for being willing to have this conversation. And I would like to end this conversation with 3 points, because as we're talking about, girl, he just ain't that into you. I would like to put a spotlight on something that I have experienced and I've seen so many times. And it relates to everything that we've talked about. And that is hope for a change. Baby, we use hope in service of our trauma. So if you hold the belief that your love or commitment can change another person, that your love is different, that can make them be different, that if you love hard enough, this is a belief that is based on a lie. Because what will happen is that the hope for a change, that is what can lead you to accept minimal efforts. Because see, your whole vision is about the future improvement. Because you're focused on what you think you can get in the future that you don't realize, and you ain't tallied up what you're getting right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is about you breaking down anything within you that is blocking you from having the love and relationships that you deserve, that you want. And if you do not, or if you're unwilling, or if you just ain't ready yet, that is your choice. But please understand that trauma can have us distrusting genuine effort. So not only can you be stuck hoping for some damn miracle, okay? And from a miracle from someone who most likely isn't even in touch with their own soul.
Exactly.
Okay? And you can distrust that if you do encounter someone who is genuine, you might be wary of their efforts. You might sabotage it. You might make excuses, and you can view them from a place of suspicion. So it goes both ways, that our trauma can have us holding on to relationships with people who are just not into us, but it can also have us sabotaging or
Mhm.
avoiding the risk of a healthy love and relationship because of your trauma. It feels safer to accept the minimal efforts, aka the devil you know, than something that is healthy and that is less predictable for you because it's new and it's unfamiliar. Don't let trauma trick you that way, baby. You got to connect
Exactly.
with you and your intuition and your deservingness of
Mm.
being heard, being seen, being known, and being respected. You deserve that simply because you are human.
Mm. That is a great way to conclude, or actually press pause because we'll press play again tomorrow at 2:30. That's what we'll be
That's
doing.
right. So come on, get your tickets. The crown is going down. I'm grateful for you all for just being willing again to have this conversation. I really enjoyed you.
This was good. Good, 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 good. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.
I'll see you tomorrow. You know the link. And I love to see some of your comments about what you thought about this whole this Love Fest live stream, baby. I'll see you
Girl.
tomorrow. Bye-bye.